It's now time to sew the two halves of our purse together. So with the long tail that you left from one of the purses, I'm going to pop that onto my embroidery needle. And now we're only going to be joining the bottom of the purses together. So this top half is not going to be joined, just this square part at the bottom, because the clasp will go around the top. So I need to move the tail of my yarn to the beginning part of where I'm going to begin to join the purses. So I'm just going to weave the tail down the top single crochet section and bring it out where the join is going to begin. So about there. And now I'm going to use the mattress stitch to join these two together, and just so that this part doesn't keep scrunching up as I sew, I'm going to go over the same stitch twice. See the way it's scrunching up? I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to go over that initial stitch one more time, so that the top half stops scrunching up. Now to do the mattress stitch, you're going to work along the edge of your piece of work, and you're going to go under and up one stitch at a time. So I've gone under my first stitch, then I'm going to go back to my first piece and turn it so I can see the very edge stitch, and I'm going to go up and under the next stitch of this piece. Now moving back to the second piece, I'm going to go to the next stitch, which is the bobble stitch, and I'm going to go around the side stitch. So I hope you can see better than I'm explaining, but basically we're moving down the side of the purse, going under a stitch from either side each time. And just take a little bit of time to make sure that you're aligning the bobbles together so that your purse doesn't look skewish. And we're going to continue this process all the way around the purse, so down this side, across the bottom and up the other side, until we reach the beginning of our single crochet row again. So I'm just completing my final stitch. And then I am checking that my purse is completely aligned just the way that I want it. And then I can fasten off and tie in this end and all the other loose tails that are around the purse. So I'm just going to do a couple of stitches over the same spot, and then I can tie and fasten off. And I turned the purse inside out so that I could weave the tail along the seam inside, so that we couldn't see any of the weaving in from the outside of the work. it's now time to attach the clasp to this clasp I got off eBay. I think it's 4.5 inches big, and I'll leave a link below to a group of them. I think for 5 of them I paid about £4 or £3. So I'm going to be sewing this on with some black cotton thread, and I'm using a smaller tapestry needle because I need a needle that'll fit through the holes on the clasp to attach it to the purse. So I'm going to use doubled up cotton yarn. And it's going to be much easier to attach it with the clasp open. So what we're going to do is push the top half of our single crochet row up underneath the clasp, and we're going to sew through the holes on the clasp to attach. So it's really fiddly, but if you take your time you'll get done. So the starting point that you want to look for is the side of the clasp. So I'm going to bring my cotton thread up in the beginning of where I want the clasp to be. So next I will bring the cotton through one of the holes, or the first hole on the clasp, and pull to secure. And I'm going to be doing a back stitch to attach this part to the clasp. So it's really fiddly, and you want to be using your left hand or your opposite hand to push the fabric from your yarn, from your back purse, up underneath the clasp. And once you've put it into place, do your stitch. And sometimes it can be really hard to find the holes when you're coming from the back to the front, and you feel like you're just stabbing metal for a while, but just take your time. It's totally worth it in the end because the purse is so cute. So there's my beginning stitch done. And you will have to scrunch the top of the purse up underneath the clasp to make it all fit perfectly. If you see, I'm having trouble getting the needle out. There we go. But it does become easier. And now I'm just going to continue to do the back stitch all the way along. And I go over some of my stitches twice at the beginning and at the end, just to make sure that the cotton is secure and not going to unravel. So the best advice I can give you is to take your time and to keep repositioning your fingers and the part of the purse after each stitch, just to check that everything is in the place that it should be, because you don't want to finish going along this side of your clasp only to realise that everything's wonky. Now I'm just completing the last couple of stitches on the first row, and once you finish this side you want to fasten off the cotton and start afresh on the opposite side. You're not going to be able to pull your cotton over because you want to leave room for the clasp to open and shut, and if you do that it might be too tight or too loose and you'll see the cotton inside. So once you've come to the end of the side one, make sure to tie off and get a nice new piece of cotton and do the same all the way over the other side of the clasp on the other half of the purse. And there is the completed purse. So you're very welcome to leave it like this, but we're going to add a tassel just to make it look a little bit more. To make the tassel, I'm going to be using my iPhone, it's an iPhone 6, as a guide of the length of the tassel strings that I'll have. I think I wrap it round about 15 times. Yep, I did 15 in the end, and then you can cut off the excess yarn. Now you want to cut a little length of yarn, probably about 12 inches, and you're going to attach this to your embroidery needle, or thread it onto your embroidery needle. And I'm going to weave this through so that I can tie it at the top of where my tassel will be. I don't want to lose these strands once I cut them off the phone, you see. So I'm just going to do a double knot at the top. And then I can remove the yarn off of my phone. Now I'm going to cut another bit of yarn, it'll be about the same, about 12 inches. And I'm going to double it over and I'm going to slip knot this around probably the top 1/4 of the tassel and pull tight. So now it looks like a bit like an octopus. And with one of the strands, I'm going to wrap this around multiple times around where we have just done the slip knot. And when you are happy that you've done enough, I'm going to secure it with the other end of the slip knot tail. So I'm going to do a couple of knots just to ensure that's not going anywhere. Then instead of cutting off these ends from the knot, I'm going to attach them to my embroidery needle and thread them underneath the wraps that we've just made to add them to the legs of the tassel. So I'm just going to thread them right under the wraps. And the same with the other tail. And now all that's left to do is to cut all of these loops in half. And now trim the tassel so it's all the same length. And to make my tassel extra fancy, I'm going to add on this bead. And this bead is just from a necklace that I cut up. I never throw away old necklaces, I always cut them up and keep all the beads on them, or bracelets. And then with an old keyring chain or a new one, I'll leave a link to where I got these from eBay. I'm going to add that to the top of my tassel, and then I can attach my tassel onto the side of my purse. And there is the completed bobble purse. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up or leave me a comment, like, subscribe, any of the above. Other than that, I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now!